Welcome back, everybody, to the Spread the Good Stuff podcast. I am your host, Bronkar, better known as the Good Stuff Guy, where we bring inspiration right to your inbox. Now, today, I have an amazing guest with us. This is a very special human being who's doing amazing things in the world. She is a speaker, dancer, a people coach, the president and human experience master at Illuminated Hospitality. She's my trusted colleague and friend. It is an honor to welcome to the podcast, Karen Lasher. Karen, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Yeah, it's good. It's great to have you here.
Any time shared with you is great time. So I'm looking forward to spending this time with you and chatting about good stuff.
Yes, right on, sister. And you already put a plug for our movement. Yeah. Well, I want to jump right in and ask you. My first question is, what brings you joy in life?
Well, it's funny that you asked that in that way, because I've kind of figured out that for me, that I find joy by showing up as myself in all of my truth with love, like to the moment. And every time I do that, I feel like I'm planting little seeds of joy that then when I go and do the things that I love to do, like hike or dance, particularly dance, it's like all those little seeds just sprout and you're just like explosions of joy. And even when nothing else happens, I've found that the things that I'm doing aren't what brings me joy. It's how I'm being. And if I'm being myself with love, it's just joy. Like everything is joy.
I love that. So it's not the what specifically, it's the how.
Yeah. And it took me a long time to get to that, right? I think we all struggle with that. Like we think those epic vacations and the whatever we just bought, the new shoes, a new outfit, all those things are going to bring us joy. And joy is an inside job, right? It's just an inside job. And I believe it all comes from just being who we are with love.
That's powerful. I really love that. One of my first mentors, he had me do this really crazy thing where his philosophy was how you do anything is how you do everything. And he actually had me for my like homework or integration exercises. I had to wash silverware. And it was very like kung fu, very like martial arts, trainer, grasshopper kind of thing. But he had me do that because it was a meditation practice to put that love and that, omnipresent undercurrent into the washing of the silverware.
Right. Because so much of life is just the everyday stuff, right? Like going to the grocery store can be a joyful experience.
Yeah. And I love that because you're one of those people, and, we've worked together, quite a bit. And you're one of those people that I feel has optimism, joy, possibility on the forefront of your mind or on the forefront of your mental search engine, as I like to say. Tell me about that. Like when you go to the basic everyday things, like you mentioned the grocery store, running errands, things like that. Are you constantly like, searching for opportunities to spread that?
Yeah, no, I'm mostly just trying to be. I'm just trying to be me. And I think that's my nature. And I believe that I truly believe that's my purpose. I truly believe that hospitality has always been my purpose. And I was lucky to figure that out early in my career. And so I always did work that lit me up because it's my purpose. But I really feel that I've always been that glass half full, the optimistic, that like joy for life. And that doesn't mean that that's the only way that you experience joy. I think people that are not glass half full people, there's a reason for that. And as long as they're being that in the world, then you get the same amount of joy. So I just try to show up as me and with like, so, and not have it be a chore, right? Like to remind myself constantly, like, hey, we're driving right now. Like, okay, let's drive right now, right? Let's do this right now. It's that moment, being in the now. being in the now with your whole self, your whole being, and just letting that shine. I think, yeah.
Definitely. And that's, some people would call that mindful practice or mindfulness. And you are just being. I mean, you really are. And I've seen that in so many different things that you do. Would you talk a little bit about, you had a super cool gig. I don't know if you're still doing it or what, but you had such a cool gig that you were doing on the top of mountains, and you were doing what you refer to as people coaching and catalyzing hundreds and thousands of people every day. Can you talk about that? Because your work that you were doing on the mountaintops was just so cool to me.
Yeah. So, that started as where I had kind of figured out like what had got me to this point of joy. And I recognized that it was really a frontline service job that allowed me to learn that essential thing about being. And when I was being in service to another person, that everything just lit up. And so I started that as a way to kind of practice it, test it out. Like, can I really do this? Can I really show up as a liftee on a mountain and change lives and help people? And I could, and it was awesome.
And really quick, for people who don't know what a liftee is, it's basically somebody who's working on top of like an epic mountain, which happened to be Mount Hood. Is that right?
Yes, Mount Hood. Yeah.
And basically at like a ski resort, ski slope, and helping, teaching people how to get on and off the ski lift and things like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And lifties are notoriously kind of like, if you have a stereotypical liftee, it is a 20-something dude who wants to just snowboard all day or ride all day and maybe, So I'm like not at all the mold of a liftee in any way, shape, or form. And my job was to run the line. There was these big, long lines. And this year it was super challenging because you also had the whole COVID pandemic experience. Mm-hmm. And so masks were really important. And so it was learning how to, when people didn't have their mask on, how to always have that be an opportunity to see them with love and not assume that they're being a jerk or trying to be a jerk. They just forgot. And so it was a constant practice for me to stand in that truth. But so basically I just showed up, and it was perfect for me because I just cranked tunes all day and danced, and that's how I ran the line. It's like, if I'm going to stand out here and like manage a line, I'm going to do it with some fun. And I would remind people all the time, you're skiing, you're recreating right now, and I seem to be having more fun than you are. So come on, let's work on that, right? Like, I'd be like getting down, and then people would be coming through like, what's going on? I was like, come on, you're on a mountain, you're on a mountaintop, you're on a volcano. Let's have some fun. Let's get down with life, right? So, what I learned from that is the simplest of jobs can have the greatest impact. Because the number of people that have reached out to me via social media, because you could, sort of connect that way, and reached out to me in the last couple of weeks. It just ended. Saturday was the last day. Saturday, May 1st was the last day of the mountain. And for the last 3 weekends, people came up to me on a regular basis and to say, hey, I just want you to know that every single day when I saw you, my day got better. Like, I'd come around and I'd see you standing there, and I'd know you were there at the lift, and my whole day got better. And so that says a lot. In the simplest of jobs, we have impact. And I know that it's about energy, that I show up with love, that people might just think that I'm having a great time, but I'm really consciously every morning when I'm riding the bus up the mountain, I'm setting up myself to say, I'm going to love everyone that comes through. I'm going to open my heart. I'm going to be there as myself. And I know that people don't know that, but they feel it. Like, that's the real thing about showing up with love at the grocery store. You don't have to say anything to anyone, anywhere you go. If you are just standing in love and your love and light, which is what I think we are, people feel that. You don't even have to say anything. You just smile and you just look at them, and they're like, whoa, wow, what was that? Right?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I love that so much. I have a lot that I want to unpack here with you. The first thing I want to say is, just because you talk about love and light, And I have a thing that I say with my two boys, because I have two very spirited young boys, as you know, 3 and 5, Nico and Elijah. And one thing, whenever they fall and get hurt, because right now it's all about scraped knees and elbows, and every time they fall, they come running to me and they say, "Daddy, Daddy, heal me." And so I take their arm or their leg, and I hold it and I say, "Love and light, bring the joy, heal this beautiful little boy." And every time, and we bring it down, and
I love that.
So very, very congruent in there. My friend, there are so many things to unpack. One thing you said here was to not assume the worst in people when you were talking about the mask thing, but to assume the best. I love that so much. And I think that we can all use that as a reminder, whether that's sitting in traffic or, and somebody cuts you off or, or whatever that may be in any listener's, life here, but to always assume the best and kind of, breathe that empathy and that compassion into every situation. And you do that. And then I love what you said. The simplest of jobs can have the greatest impact. How powerful is that? Because you are breathing that essence, that life force, that omnipresent undercurrent of joy. I mean, you're like you're talking about, people are on vacation. They're up skiing on the mountain. You're working and you're having as much or more fun as them. And you're like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And then I want to really touch on, and here's why I want to throw the ball back to you.
Okay.
You talked about being on the bus, and I really like to really talk about pregame and postgame experiences, because doing the thing, the concert, the performance, the game, the job, whatever it is, doing that thing, being engaged in that activity is very important. But what we're doing on the front end and the back end and how we're bookending these experiences are so incredibly important. What does your ritual or routine look like on your way to your job here on the bus, as you said?
Yeah, well, it starts that particular experience. I would have a 45 minute to an hour, depending on the weather, drive to the bus, where then I would park, and it would be at the crack of dawn. It's like before 5 a.m. And I designed a little routine that I did for myself, that I created for myself, which is a combination of like movement and meditation, and it had to do with the 4 poles, north, south, west, north, east, and I would stand at the port of Hood River, on the banks of the Columbia River, and I would do that. And for me, it's been a practice that now, like, I do every day, and it centers me in my body. It reminds me that I'm a physical being, but that it connects my spiritual being to my physical being. And I kind of get centered for the day. And I say, okay. And what I figured out in that practice, because for me, and I just designed it what I need. Like, I think that's what we all have our own path, and your practice probably isn't going to work for me. And so then I would say, for me, it was in the South is about light, is reminding myself that I am light. In the West is because I think of the West as the surf, as the ocean, because it's close to me here, and that powerful, always present, movement about fun and about energy. And so reminding myself that whatever happens today, I can greet it with that energy of playfulness. And to the North is always about power, and reminding myself that everything that I am and everything I need is right within me, and I am just as powerful as anybody, anything. I can do whatever. And then to the East is that for me, living on the West, when I look East, it's that wide open, like the land is before you. And so for me, it's like, open up your wings and fly with the day. So for me, and I do this little thing, and depending on how much time I had, it could be super long or it could be really short. And then I would do some balance exercises to ground myself. And I'd get on the bus and I would, how am I showing up today? What am I going to show up? And that practice kind of leads me into it a little bit. Some days, like, I'll feel really strongly like I need to be light today. Like, I think that's what I'm being called today. I'm called to be being light. So I focus on just doing that, like being light. Sometimes it's like being playful. Sometimes, right? So I just center myself on what the day looks like. I think about the people. I think about the experience they're going to have. I think about them driving up the mountain. And because I believe that's part of that whole experience is like, that's my job, is to ensure that people get on lifts safely, efficiently, and with, it's part of the experience. So, and then once I'm there, it's just boots on the ground, because once I get there, it's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of work to set up. It's physical. If I haven't spent that time to ground myself and center myself and have a plan for the day, I just kind of spin. And then it's just on the reverse on the way home. On the way home, I make notes like, how did I do? Like a little debrief. How did I do?
Yeah.
Oh, that one guy really pushed my buttons. Why did he push my buttons? What can I learn from that? How can I tell a different story about what that person is? One of those things that for me, that's that like story thing, because I think one of the things where I got really mad at someone was because I'm kind of a control freak. And so I'm in charge of the line. So if you're cutting in line, I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on? Like, nah, yeah, like, this is my show. Like, you'll go when I tell you can go, right? And so when somebody did that once, and I was really mad, like he just kind of really like blew in there, and I gave him grief, and not very nice grief. I was mad, and he looked at me and goes, oh, I was just so excited. I just can't wait to get up there. And in that moment, I was like, oh, that was the story that I needed for every future person that was going to cut the line. I don't care if they were trying to cut the line. I'm going to tell the story that they're just so damn excited to get up there that they just can't wait. And then that allows me to treat them with that love. Like as long as I tell that story about them, and not the story that they're trying to cut the line and be a jerk, but that they're just excited. Those for me are those big wins where you like somebody helps you see the possibility of something other than I'm being a jerk.
That's amazing. You're so brilliant. And people listening and watching, I mean, I really hope that you're soaking this up. Karen is such a powerful storyteller. And these are real stories, real experiences. Tune in right now to how you're feeling with her words, because this is some real frontline authenticity. And she is such a well-articulated human being. You are, I'm talking to you now. You are such a well-articulated human being because you do the work. And that's the thing is you're deliberate about it. I loved what you said about designing a routine that works for you. And that's so important because your routine might not work for me, might not work for somebody else listening, but we can feel that you're so congruent right now with your routine. It is a part of who you are. And that's how you get to what I call getting into your place of power. And what I'm hearing you talk about is that you're really, you're in your place of power. It's coming from within you. You're there. And what you're doing here is you're being proactive about retuning your internal instrument, about getting yourself in your place of power so that when you show up to your gig, your work, then you're reacting to all of the external people and forces and situations, and you're reacting in a way that is not a knee-jerk reaction, but more of a quality response where you're doing it with compassion, with power, with empathy, with kindness. And I love what you said there about movement and meditation. You have movement and meditation. You said you have music in there as well. Obviously, my belief is music is such an underutilized tool in our society, and it's so undeniably powerful. We can use it to help, to heal, to stimulate, to relax, all of that stuff. But I love that connection you have to north, south, east, and west. That's so powerful, Karen. And I mean, wow, that's just, I'm going to listen back to this interview and listen back to what you just said and internalize that, because that was just incredible, really incredible stuff. How do you, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to thank you for that, because you're the one that helped me create that. Like your work, working with you, helped me to do that. So thank you. And usually the music I'm playing is yours. I'm doing some, yeah. So
beautiful. I am not paying Karen to do a mindset music plug for any, by all means. But since you brought it up, yeah, there is some pretty cool music that I've created that's available too. Yeah, absolutely. I love it, sister. How do you get out of, because you radiate so much love and light, and that's obvious. It is omnipresent in your words and your energy. What do you have any techniques when you get into a funk? Like you mentioned story, like sometimes you go into a story or something like that, whether it's somebody cutting in line or, or less preferred situation. Do you have any tools or techniques that you do to get out of that funk?
Yeah. So I have the practices that I have, which are to walk in the woods. That's a daily thing that even if I don't, it's just like you just do it. And sometimes you don't remember until you're there, like, oh, that's right. I really need this. And particularly if I'm super in a funk, it usually means I haven't done it for a while. For me also, it's about dancing. If I put music on, guaranteed, no matter how bad I feel, if I put music on and start moving, it just moves everything through that I'm struggling with. It kind of gets me back into that. I am love and light. That's what we all are. Like it just kind of gets back to that. And I find that for myself, that funk is usually centered upon some kind of wah is me. Like, right. If I'm focused on myself and what I don't have or all the the disappointments, that's where I get in a funk. Yeah. If I focus on being love and light to another person, that's what helps me. Like just go smile at someone, just go serve someone, So I dance in my neighborhood, which for me is a really good thing. And to see people when I go by, in the cars, like driving by, and I'll wave at them, and it just makes people happy, and it makes me happy. I'm like, well, that's just a good thing.
Yeah. And you thrive off of that. I want to unpack that a little bit more, but you said a couple of things. Couple of ways that you get out of a funk are walk in the woods, dancing through the streets, and that's kind of recalibrating yourself, getting back in your back to what you said is that love and light centered place there. What is it about walking in the woods? And we're going to get to dancing in a moment because I know that's one of your big passions. What is it about walking in the woods, do you think, that gets you back to that place of love and light?
Well, because it is my sanctuary. It is the place where I can see myself in the biggest glory ever, like where I see the masterpiece that I am, and I feel supported, and I'm able to do that, and I feel the love of the world in that natural setting. I don't know if that could be, if other people feel that. That's just how I am. So I get in there and I'm instantly, and it's like, I was telling somebody this yesterday, I feel like with sanctuary, it's not a place you're supposed to stay, and I feel like a lot of times, when I was really struggling and walking through, trying to heal and get to this place, that I walked in the woods every day. And I got to a point where I felt like one day the trees just said, you need to get out of here. Like you need to get out of the woods and you need to get out on the sidewalk and start loving people out there. Right. Mm-hmm. It was like this. And so sometimes I feel like that. When I'm there, I feel like nature speaks to me. I see owls all the time lately. They're constantly like right there, like on a tree, like right next to me in the middle of the day. I'm like, why is that? I feel like, I think they have a message. I don't know. Like it's my place. Yeah.
I love that so much. It makes me think of a couple of things. What you said was the sanctuary is not a place to stay. It seems like it's a place to go and rejuvenate, to remember your truth, but then to bring it back to the streets, as you said. And it made me think of the movie Soul. I don't know if you've seen it. So it's a very good movie. I highly recommend it, but they talk about people that get in the zone, like with sports or singing or music or whatnot. And they get in the zone and they go to this other place. And it's a really awesome place to go and to visit, but not to just be there all the time, because we get lost in the zone and then we're not kind of like grounded in reality, so to speak. And I love what you're saying, because that's such a classic stereotype of people that are maybe meditation experts or practice mindfulness on a deep level, a level of mastery. So often we put them into this bucket of, they're gurus and they go to the cave for 30 years and they just hibernate there and they have all white on and they're smudging and all of that, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it. A very, very cool, choice that they're making. But what you're saying is you go, you get that nugget, you get that inspiration, you get that reboot or recharge or rejuvenation, and then you go and you share it. And what really lights you up is applying it to the three-dimensional world, applying it to the reality of being a human and dancing in the streets, because then you see that immediate smile on somebody else's face, as you said, when they're driving and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I talk a lot about love and light and, and shine your light in the world. But I'm not a super woo-woo kind of person. I believe all that, but I'm a boots on the ground. We all eat, sleep, poop, drink water. That's pretty much right. Like the majority of life is just hardcore, right? We wake up and we're just going through a day, right? Yeah. We work, we do that. It's not all this kind of like esoteric, like land of Oz kind of, I don't know, like what to call it, but it's it's reality, right? Like we go to the grocery store, we have to do things. We have to like do chores. We have to live. Yep. And we have to survive, right?
Yeah.
We count on a lot of people to survive, really, as a collective society.
Well, there's one thing I always say, and that is that even unicorns fart. Because it's nice. I love the fantasy, that's my jam, but it's like, hey, let's bring it back to reality, people. And Karen, you actually have a background in engineering. So you're a very scientific thinker, and you are a very organized and linear brain thinker. Yeah.
And that's really powerful for me in order to let's just take the job as a liftee, that my job. Part of what enabled me to do that is because I'm a systems thinker, because I'm quickly in the first couple weeks of the season, it's like, okay, how do we do this? How do we get this setup done? Like, let's organize these reels so that every day I don't have to think about what rope line goes on what thing. Like literally, if it was up to half of the staff at the end of the season, they still, it's like, oh, what are we doing, right? Like, but I'm really about, let's create systems that enable us to streamline everything so that we can do what we do, which is be human, right? Because really, that's what we all want, is the human experience. And the more that you can create systems, the more comfort, it's like, what do we do with all the comfort that we've created in our life? Like if we're not using that comfort to better each other, then why do we have it? Right? Like, that's how I think. Like, everything should be so that we can be better humans to ourselves and to others.
Absolutely, sister. Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing that makes me think of is, people are always saying, think outside of the box, think outside of the box. And I'm like, give me a box, please. Right? It's like, yes, let's think outside of our current belief system or our current box. Yeah. But then let's build another box. Then we can get creative. We can paint the walls different colors, suspend aerial apparatus from the ceiling, spring the floors with trampolines. We can do whatever we want in there, but we need a box. And that's what I love about what you're saying here, because you're creating that box, that system, that structure. The nuts and bolts are all there. It's taken care of. And then you can show up, be fully present in the moment, and improvise with the jazz of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really my mission to help hospitality companies figure that out, because really, that whole front lines of service is filled with people that want to be just like, really, I think that want to have a job and be able to do a job the same way I do that job, with joy and satisfaction. But that requires a certain level of organization and, and preparation. And that just doesn't happen. It's like, you can't just like hire people and say, hey, go out and really be nice to people and create exceptional customer experiences, but you haven't given them any tools to enable them to do that. So that's kind of my mission.
And it is totally, and you're doing a great job. And I see that unfolding with your practices on two levels. One is there's the systems and the organization of like the lines and everything that you were talking about, inside of that workflow. But then there's the second one, which is the specific routine and the disciplined exercise of getting yourself in tune, aligning your mind, your body with your movement practices, and deliberately engineering that type of a pre-game ritual or routine.
Yeah. I feel like one of the biggest challenges we have as humans is work, being human at work. And, a lot of people just go to work and you kind of like, I'm going to go to work, and you're not really showing up as your full human self. Like we go and we're halfway there because we're just doing it, right? Like a lot of people just have jobs or you're just going and you're just punching the time clock or whatever, even if you're, and that is a detriment to our personal well-being. The more that we can show up as our best self all the time, the better off we all are as a society. Like, it's not like we don't stop being human when we go to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just don't.
I love that. I love that. Being human at work is so powerful. How do you hope to inspire listeners today?
Oh, well, I think my ultimate inspiration for people all the time is that, to remind people that they are such a masterpiece. That my whole thing is we're all masterpieces, and made with love, by love, for love. That's kind of my little thing. And so that's the baseline. But other than that, it's showing up in the world, showing up in your truth, as big as you can, with love in your heart. And that's where it all begins.
Absolutely. That's powerful. That's powerful. And again, for the people listening here, if they want to get in touch with you, they want to follow you, be connected to you and your community and all of the awesomeness that you're creating, how can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook, at Karen the Dancing Lady is my handle. And I also have two websites. One is Illuminated Hospitality, which is my business piece. And then I have something called the Firefly Life, which is about being a firefly, lighten up the world with your light. And that's thefireflylife.com. So
I love it. I love it. That's powerful. So you said Karen the Dancing Lady.
Yeah.
Is the first one. And then you said Illuminated Hospitality. Mm-hmm. And then tell me the Firefly.
The Firefly Life.
The Firefly Life. Beautiful, yeah. Beautiful. And they're all different iterations, but they're all connected at the core of who you are, which is what I love so much, is that you are in such deep vibrational congruency with everything that you do, as you say, being the human at work. And that's what really inspires me about you. It's so incredible. And it just reminded me when you gave the call to action for people to keep in touch with you there. I didn't come back to the dancing part. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. You mentioned something about dancing in the streets, and you literally dance in the streets. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this was a pandemic. This has started in the pandemic, which was, I realized that, wow, like community is the people that we're surrounded by. Like that I was like a lot of people, like in movement all the time, going into Portland to see my people, to, hang out with my tribe. But really the people that you're surrounded with are your community, the energy. And so I have a border collie, and even at 10, he's got more energy than, and he needs a walk. So I leash him up, I crank some tunes. And I just dance. I live on a hill, so I get to go down, which is nice. And I wind through the neighborhoods. And so it's a physical exercise, but at the same time, it's a spiritual exercise for me to, when I start out, I think that dance is a way to move my energy throughout myself, but also out into the world. So I center myself on love for all the people in my neighborhood, in my community right here, and I head out, and that's what I'm doing. I'm sprinkling love in the streets, and sometimes I'll kind of forget, and something will come up, and I'm like, no, remember, this is about love, right? This is about love. Even if they don't see you, who's behind that door? I'm kind of like going by, going, yeah, yep. And then the third thing, it's a practice. It's a mental practice for me to retell all the stories in my head, so that when somebody goes by and gives me kind of a look, Like, why is that lady dancing in the street? You know, the whole stories that we tell about doing something that people don't do, and having to do that over and over again. Like, it's okay. It's all right. Right. And tell myself that, no, they're thinking, oh yeah, there's that lady reminding me that it's going to be a great day today. Right. So if I'm telling that story, as opposed to saying, wow, that person's driving by and saying, why is that, what's that crazy lady and what did she just smoke or whatever. Right. If that's a story I'm telling, that's not going to do anybody any good. So for me, it's a mental exercise to continually tell a story that uplifts myself, and then hopefully I think that translates into that's what people see, right? Like if I'm telling whatever I'm telling is what people are seeing. So
incredible.
And it's this is my mission to make that like a real thing. Like really, I really encourage people. It's an incredible practice: physical, spiritual, mental exercise, all in one thing. Dancing in the street.
Dancing in the street. I love that. Physical, mental, spiritual, everything. You're healing, you're sprinkling love, as you said. You're also, as a byproduct, you're getting your exercise on with that movement. You're getting your chi and your energy and your blood flowing, and everything's like going through you. I mean, so you're healing yourself while you're healing others. And I love, that really ties back to what we were talking about earlier was, it's not what, it's why and how. It's like, what's the intention behind it? How are we doing it? That's what really matters. And that's the key ingredient for this magical recipe of life, and you're baking that in. I mean, that's like an 80% ingredient for you. You're like, yeah, whether I'm doing the liftee, whether I'm doing the dancing, front line and whatever it is, it's like, I'm baking in the good stuff there to this recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love this story, this mental exercise that you talked about the story that you're telling yourself. I want to unpack that a little bit more, because I know that there are people listening right now that have stories. We all have stories, myself included. We all have stories that we tell ourselves. Are there any techniques, and you kind of alluded to it there, but just to really get that in for the listeners, are there any things that you do to rewrite that narrative of your internal dialogue, or rewrite that story to one of positivity, of service, and things like that?
Yeah, well, it usually all starts when something happens that triggers me into that state of like some kind of like, right? Like that little rub, like, and it used to be driving. Like how many times I'm a really aggressive driver, and I would get so irritated with people, and then I realized, well, I'm telling the story that they're doing this on purpose. Like, why am I irritated? I'm irritated because I'm telling the story that they're doing this on purpose to make me mad. Well, that's ridiculous, right? It's totally, half of what we think is totally ridiculous. So it was just that mental, like, okay, what can I say? Well, I could say, well, like, oh, well, how many times have I cut someone off unintentionally? Oh, they probably don't even know. Okay, they don't even know. Whoops, sorry, dude. Right. And then suddenly, and I feel better because now I'm not pissed. I'm not like, so it's this constant whenever something happens, and people do things that are not nice a lot. But to always tell the story that they're doing that intentionally does great harm to my personal well-being. So as much as I can kind of feel that, go, oh, that doesn't feel so good. But why doesn't it feel good? Because this is the story I'm telling. So in the moment, I'm like, what would I be doing that I might be doing that? Like, kind of like I am you, right? Like I need to see them as me. And as soon as I can see them as me and figure out a way, like this is my current struggle with people that do things or believe things that I don't believe. I kind of have to put myself in their shoe. Like, in what way would I ever be able to think this, right? What is a possibility? So that, I don't know if I'm articulating that very well, but
yes. I
did it with a friend recently where he was so stressing out about something that happened with an ex-landlord, and they were coming down on for back rent and all this stuff. And he was just like in this, oh my heavens, like all the things that were going to happen that aren't real.
Yeah.
Right. all the things that aren't real. And so I stopped and I said, okay, let's just stop and let's figure out a way. Like, let's tell a good story. How would this end? How is this possible to end good?
Yeah.
Well, whatever. And it was like, no, none of that is real. Let's tell a good story. What's possible? What is in the realm of possibility that we can rewrite this? And as long as you can hold on to that and move forward, that's more likely to happen, because what you're doing in telling that story of all the crap that's going to happen is you're just making all that crap happen because you're adding to it. So it's that constant thinking about the stories that we're telling about people, intention, motive. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
What's really happening? Yeah. Because most of it we don't know.
Yeah. So it's, rewrite the narrative of the internal dialogue in order to get out there and spread the good stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And also order to feel the good stuff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is like, it's kind of selfish, right? Like, it's like, I want to feel good. I don't want to be mad. I don't want to be irritated. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be all those things. Yeah. I want to feel them and let it go through. But how do I let it go through? Well, by telling a story of what's possible, like, that makes me okay with it.
Yeah. To not only give the good stuff, but to receive the good stuff. And that's comes down to the law of reciprocity, which I'm teaching Elijah, our 5-year-old. I actually got him to say it yesterday. We went to Chipotle. We had a big storm come through Atlanta, and it knocked out our power. And so we looked at it as an opportunity, and we're like, all right, what are we going to do? Let's go to Chipotle and get dinner. So we went to Chipotle. We went in, he's making friends and talking to everybody there. We're all masked up and everything. So it's, everybody's socially distanced, but he's just chatting up a storm. We come through the line. He's chatting to the guy making our burritos for us. And he's just like, at the end, he's like, thank you so much. We really appreciate you making dinner for us. And he's just dying. Like, this is his vocabulary that's baked into him, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll take some credit, thank you. But but this is his dialogue. And then the lady checking out was like, "Oh my gosh!" She's like, "You were so cool." She's like, "I threw in a little apple juice just for you, okay?" And so he got a free apple juice, out of the deal. Which he didn't do it for the apple juice, but he was giving that. He was complimenting. He was giving love. He was lighting people up, and then in return, the law of reciprocity gave him a little apple juice treat for him and his brother. But that's totally it. So we're not only spreading the good stuff, giving the good stuff, radiating, illuminating, but we're also receiving that as the law of reciprocity happens, and we're open and receptive to receiving that as well.
Yeah. It's good parenting. You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Yes. Not all situations are exactly, fantasy cookie cutter like that. But when they do happen, it is quite lovely. And I start to glow and I'm like, yes, that's my son. Awesome. Well, Karen, give us one more call to action as we wrap up here. One more call to action. Tell people listening where they can find you one more time.
Yeah. Instagram, Karen, the dancing lady. That's the big one. Lots of everyday good stuff. thefireflylife.com and Illuminated Hospitality. Beautiful.
It has been an honor having you here. You're so glorious. And I definitely want to have you back. And it's so much wisdom. And I'm going to replay this podcast and listen and make notes. And so many gold nuggets in there. Just incredible stuff. So as we wrap up here, I want to thank all the listeners for listening. I want to thank the sponsors. Oh, wait, we don't have sponsors yet. But if you are listening and you are interested in sponsoring this movement, please get in touch with us at spreadthegoodstuff.com. We are looking for creating partnerships with amazing people who would like to sponsor something like this. So if you or somebody would like to sponsor this, make sure to contact us at spreadthegoodstuff.com. And if you found value in this podcast, make sure to spread it, to share it with somebody else who might need this pick-me-up, this reminder, some of this amazing content that Karen dropped on us today. And thank you again for everybody. Have an amazing day. I'm Bronkar, your host, better known as the Good Stuff Guy. And get out there, my friends, and spread the good stuff, because the world needs you to shine your light brightly and sing your theme song at the top of your lungs. All right, my friends, have an amazing day.
good stuff.